Let's be honest. Making excuses can be cringy. It's awkward for the person saying it and just as uncomfortable for the person hearing it, especially when we both know better. Yet we still do it, wrapping fear or procrastination in pretty words and hoping no one notices. It's been a while, but I've done it. How about you? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain, audit those excuses, and replace them with ownership, because nothing feels better than living aligned with your calling, excuse-free. Welcome to the Christian Coaching School podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Leelo Bush. I'm a master coach, author, curriculum creator, and the #1 authority on spirit-led Christian coaching. I've trained tens of thousands worldwide since 2003, and if you're ready to up-level your skills, find greater fulfillment, and employ the most powerful coaching available to mankind, let's go. All right, welcome back. I'm Dr. Leelo Bush, and today we're cutting through the can't because clutter. I've trained and certified thousands of coaches worldwide over the last 22 years. And as a result, I have watched many people rise to great heights. But unfortunately, too many people with God-given potential stay stuck because of a handful of worn-out excuses. Entering a new school year, I thought the timing of this episode would be perfect. If you are stuck with excuses, we will do an audit and end their bondage today. Excuses look harmless, but they are silent dream killers. They feel justified, they can sound logical, and keep you stuck. Today, we're going to expose them, dismantle them, and replace them with unstoppable ownership. Since school is back in session, it's your turn. If you've been feeling the nudge to step into your calling as a Christian life coach, counselor, or specialty coach, the Professional Christian Coaching and Counseling Academy, otherwise lovingly called PCCCA, has world-class training for you to help you get there. I encourage you to visit pccca.org/courses, where you will find all the details, because the future you are praying for isn't going to build itself. So let's get straight into this. Excuses are not harmless. They quietly chip away at your confidence. They limit your opportunities and shrink the vision that God has placed in your heart. An explanation tells the truth and points toward a solution. An excuse, it stops the conversation, locks the door, and throws away the key. The cost of excuse making is massive. You lose opportunities you can't get back. You delay callings God already equipped you to fulfill. And you settle for a smaller life than the one you were created to live. And here's the dangerous part. Most excuses feel justified. You're tired. You've been hurt. You don't have time, money, or support. But when you stop there, you have given the excuse the final word. And here's a scripture that brings it home. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's Philippians 4:13. If Christ is your strength, the excuse has no authority. I remember when my daughter was in elementary school, and taking ballet classes. She was really talented, and the teacher gave her solo lessons to do a solo dance in the recital. But she was terrified. When we talked about it, we thought, well, what if when she starts feeling that way, she starts repeating, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, which is what she did. And I think to this day, feels like she's not sure about going forward. You know, we all get those feelings. She'll go back to the, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I love that because the word has power, not because of who says it, but because it is the word. We have to remember that excuses have a language, and once we recognize it, we will hear it everywhere. I'm too busy. I'm not ready. I'm waiting for the right time. Boy, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that one. Those can sound harmless, but they are all code for I'm avoiding action. Look for patterns. Do you use the same excuse in your health, your relationships, your finances, or your spiritual growth? If so, it's not circumstantial, it's habitual. Proverbs 26:13 shows us, quote, the sluggard says, there is a lion in the road, a fierce lion roaming the streets. Excuses are just imaginary lions keeping us from moving forward. But what's beneath the excuse? Excuses don't live in our words. They live in the mind and heart, and they are wired into the brain. Every excuse we make is really a protective response from our nervous system, rooted in emotion. At the core, excuses are survival tools. They're the brain's way of avoiding perceived threats to our safety, our identity, or even our sense of belonging. When you're faced with a challenge that feels overwhelming, the amygdala, that little almond-shaped part of your brain that's constantly scanning for danger, lights up like a warning siren. Its job is to keep us safe, but sometimes it overreacts. It doesn't know the difference between stepping onto a stage to share your testimony and stepping in front of a hungry lion. It just says danger and looks for the fastest escape route. That is where the excuse is born. The brain then recruits our prefrontal cortex, which is our reasoning center. But here's the tricky part. When you're stressed or anxious, your prefrontal cortex gets hijacked. Instead of helping us move forward, it starts manufacturing logical sounding reasons to avoid the risk. And because those reasons sound rational, you accept them without question. This is why excuses often feel justified. They're supported by your brain's best lawyer, even when the case is built on fear, not fact. And here is the deeper truth. Your brain's default wiring is driven by just 3 basic goals: to avoid pain, increase pleasure, and conserve energy. Now, this worked beautifully when survival meant escaping predators and finding food. But in modern life, that same wiring resists anything uncomfortable, challenging, or unfamiliar, even if it's the very thing that will lead to your growth. This default wiring creates a comfort-seeking agenda, and it fuels many of the excuses that keep us from stepping into God's best. And then there's your identity network, the deep wiring of beliefs about who you are and what's possible for you. If your internal story says, I'm not the kind of person who succeeds at this, your brain will work overtime to keep that story intact. It will supply excuses to protect that identity, even if that identity is limiting you. For most of us, our story of what is possible is built on the past, not the future. But the past is not a good indicator of what is possible. If it were, our culture would never have developed and progressed to where we are today. We wouldn't have planes, we wouldn't have mobile phones, and we wouldn't have AI, would we? And here's where it gets even more tangled. People often confuse excuses with boundaries. Boundaries are designed to protect your values and priorities. They are set from a place of clarity and love. Excuses, on the other hand, are built to protect your comfort zone. One brings peace and alignment. The other brings guilt and frustration. You can test it. Boundaries leave you feeling empowered, and excuses leave you feeling smaller. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. That's your wiring in Christ. The Spirit's design is for power, love, and sound judgment, not fear, not avoidance or self-sabotage. When you learn to spot the difference and override that reflex, you begin retraining your brain. Every time you challenge an excuse, you are weakening the old fear pathway and strengthening the neural circuit for courage and action. And that's not just motivation, that's neuroscience, and it's proven. Friend, this is where you can begin to control this process. You've spotted the excuses. You've pulled up the roots. Now it's time to build something stronger in their place. That's ownership. Ownership is the difference between a life lived by default and a life lived by design. It's how you stop reacting and start leading yourself. The shift begins the moment you start naming your choices out loud. Instead of hiding behind, I can't because, flip it to, I choose not to because. Language forces truth. When you say I choose, you admit you have the power to change it. Even if your choice is temporary, you have taken back control. The next time you hear your own excuse, stop mid-sentence and make that shift in wording, and then ask yourself, am I okay with this choice? If not, change it on the spot. Once you start naming your choices, you will find it gets easier to interrupt the excuse in real time. Excuses gain power the longer they sit in your mind, so don't give them that chance. The moment you feel one forming, think to yourself, pause, take a deep breath, then ask yourself, what's the real truth here? That simple intervention can dismantle an excuse before it ever takes root. With interruptions in place, the next step is to upgrade your internal dialogue. Your self-talk sets the tone for your actions. When it's soaked in excuses, you act small. When it's soaked in ownership, you rise up. Take a few minutes to write down your most common excuses and then create an ownership version of each one. For example, I don't have time becomes I didn't make time yet. I'm bad with money becomes I haven't learned the money skills yet. Read these new phrases out loud daily until they feel like your natural way of speaking. To reinforce this change, create an ownership anchor, a quick physical trigger that reminds you to step up. It could be snapping your fingers, tapping your chest, or standing up straighter. Use it every time you hear yourself making an excuse. Over time, that anchor will become your automatic cue to move from retreat to responsibility. And finally, make ownership visible by tracking and celebrating your wins. We measure what we value, and if you want to value ownership, keep a simple log. At the end of the week, review your list and celebrate, no matter how small the victories seem. Progress, even in tiny doses, is proof that you are rewriting your story. Taking ownership isn't about perfection. It's about refusing to give your excuses the final word. Every time you apply these shifts, you reclaim a little more territory from fear, delay, and self-sabotage, and you step further into the life God meant for you to live. Friend, you don't need another year with the same old excuses. God's calling on your life is too important to keep hitting snooze. Ownership is freedom. Excuses are chains. If today's episode gave you a breakthrough or even just a fresh perspective, would you share it with a friend who needs to hear it? Also, take a quick moment to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you can, leave a review. Your feedback not only encourages me, but it helps more people find this message. And remember, the best next step you can take for yourself is to keep growing. Find your next course at pccca.org/courses and step boldly into the future God has prepared for you. I'm Dr. Leelo Bush, and I'll meet you in the next episode. Before you go, I want to personally invite you to join our private Facebook group, the Courageous Christian Coaching Tribe. This is where bold, spirit-led coaches and aspiring coaches gather to grow, get equipped, and stay encouraged together. Inside, you will find exclusive tips, training, supportive community, and the kind of kingdom-minded conversations you just can't find anywhere else. If you're feeling called to coach, or if you want to stay sharp in your calling, this is your place. Our group culture is each one bring one, so invite a friend to join you. The more the merrier. Just go to facebook.com/groups/Courageous Christian Coaching Tribe. And there's no spaces in there. Facebook.com/groups/Courageous Christian Coaching Tribe. Or just tap the link in the show notes. But don't wait, because the sooner you join, the sooner we can start pouring into you. And I will see you inside the tribe.